I'll take boasting in God any day, but I'm not going to brag on a monkey. You ever seen what monkeys do? All right, I got to be nice. I'm not doing it. I said I was going to try. As we talk about creation or evolution, we have to understand terms because there's three things that evolution can mean. And when we have a discussion about creation and evolution, if we don't know which one we're talking about, we get confused and we can't have an intelligent conversation. So evolution can really mean at least three things. Number one, it's a theory of origins, the goo to you theory that I just mentioned a moment ago. That's what a lot of people mean when they say evolution. That's one meaning. Another meaning for evolution is when you have changes across species. It's tied from goo to you. It's similar, but it's not the same because it doesn't talk about origins. It talks more about taxonomy. How do you relate animals? And they would say that basically one animal over time could become another animal. That's another part of evolution. And the third part is changes within species, that species themselves can change. All three of those are called evolution, and obviously they're not all the same thing at all. So we're going to have to look at all three of them. Number one, the origins one, the goo to you. The Bible has no room in it for that. The Bible flatly contradicts that theory. The Bible says, know that the Lord himself is God. It is he who has made us and not we ourselves. Psalm 100, verse 3. Now, you can accept the Bible or reject the Bible. That's valid. That's an intelligent decision you can make. In my opinion, it's not valid to say the Bible teaches that the theory of evolution from goo to you is acceptable, biblically speaking. It's not. The Bible says God made us. From goo to you doesn't work. Okay? So, you can say the Bible's wrong. That's an acceptable position. But in my opinion, you can't say the Bible says that creation never happened, that we just are a random byproduct of chance and circumstance. I don't think the Bible allows for that. It challenges it right in the face. Know that the Lord himself is God. It is he who has made us and not we ourselves. And it's interesting the way that's put there. It is he who made us and not we ourselves. Because if you think about it, aren't those the only two options? Either somebody or something made us, or somebody or something didn't make us. And yet we're here. They opt out for something making us, so we must have made ourselves. And goo to you teaches that. Who made that happen? To them, nobody. Then we did it ourselves. Now that just stretches credulity to its limits. How can you make something yourself if you're not there to make yourself? It doesn't even work, even close to work for me. And so the Bible is quite intelligent when it says, he made us, not we ourselves. Because those are the only two options. And he'll say, I opt for number one. God made us. Life cannot spontaneously generate without somebody making it happen. It can't. How many of you have ever heard of Louis Pasteur? Let me see your hands. Public education, gotta love it, most of you. Good. Louis Pasteur was a brilliant man. And he was trying to refute a belief that was current in his days called spontaneous generation. And spontaneous generation, the belief went something like this. If you leave a steak out on the counter, a few days later, there'll be worms on it. Next thing you know it, they sprout wings and fly away. So from a piece of dead meat, life arises automatically all by itself. It turns into worms and flies. That's what was believed. Louis Pasteur said, no, that's not what's going on here. There's something else going on here. So he put a piece of plastic, or they didn't have plastic in those days, metal. No, glass. There we go. Glass over the dish so nothing could get to it. And no worms. Flies couldn't come, lay their little invisible eggs, and maggots be bred. Louis Pasteur put to rest the myth of spontaneous generation, that life can automatically arise from non-life. I learned that in public school. I learned that. And at the same time, they were trying to teach me evolution. Wait a minute. Didn't you just say spontaneous generation's a myth? Now you're telling me it's true. It can't happen with maggots, but it can happen with me? Hey, I'm just fighting words. It's contradictory. You can't do that. Let me read to you a little bit about Louis Pasteur. If one were to choose among the greatest benefactors of humanity, Louis Pasteur would certainly rank at the top. He solved the mystery of rabies. Let me tell you why I'm laughing. I told this story yesterday. I was thinking about telling it today, and I almost did it by accident. When I was a kid in, I don't know, 6th grade or something, I remember coming across this word rabies for the first time. And I'm reading out loud in the class. It was my turn to read. And I read rabbis. And my teacher looked at me like I was insane. R-A-B-I-E-S, rabbis. Hooked on phonics works for me. But she told me, no, it's rabies. And I said, great, I know what rabbis are. What's rabies? And so I learned a new word. But now every time I see the word, I'm tempted to say rabbis just because the story's in my mind. So Louis Pasteur solved the mystery of rabbis, anthrax, chicken cholera, silkworm diseases, and contributed to the development of the first vaccines. He debunked the widely accepted myth of spontaneous generation, thereby setting the stage for modern biology and biochemistry. There are two options. Either God made us or we spontaneously generated. Louis Pasteur demonstrated, and everybody accepted, that spontaneous generation is a myth. And yet, it's still being taught in our classrooms to this very day. We have three options before us. Either God made us, aliens made us, or we made ourselves. Psalm 100, verse 3. Know that the Lord himself is God. It is he who made us, and not we ourselves. Charles Darwin, developed his theory, which we'll talk more about as the morning goes on. And he said, there are four potential death blows to my theory. There are four things that if we can't get a good explanation for, my theory is wrong and should be discarded. Four things. Let me read to you his four. Number one, the lack of transitional forms. Darwin said if we evolve from lower life forms into higher life forms, there should be a countless number of in-between life forms in the fossil record. So over the next 100 years or so, as you guys dig up fossils and I'm dead, you should find countless transitional forms will show my theory's right. If you do not find them, it shows my theory is wrong. Guess what? We've got lots of fossils. Thousands and tens of thousands of fossils. This is how many transitional forms they found. There are none. They do not exist. His theory is wrong. It should be discarded. That's what he said. That's death blow number one. And by the way, we will be talking more about fossils in a couple weeks. Next week, we're going to look at the age of the Earth, because that's a foundational topic to this whole discussion. Evolution needs millions of years to happen, so they believe the world's millions of years old. But the Bible says the world's not millions of years old, it's only thousands of years old. So we're going to look at the age of the Earth next year from a scientific perspective. And then the following week, we're going to look at Noah's Ark. Did the worldwide flood really happen? Is there evidence that it did? How did all those animals fit in the boat? Stuff like that. And if you're going to miss a Sunday, don't miss week after next. It's going to be a fun sermon. A fun sermon. You do want to be here in 2 weeks for sure. I don't want to tell you anymore, but it's going to be fun. I can't wait. I've got an illustration for you that I've had in my back pocket for like 3 years, waiting for the opportune moment to use it. In 2 weeks. Come back. All right, lack of transitional forms, death blow number one. Death blow number two, the development of instincts in animals. How do they do what they do? Animals do amazing and brilliant things. From simple little things to a whale being born underwater. You know, whales don't breathe water, they breathe air. So mommy's got to push the whale up so it can breathe. How does she know to do that? She's a dumb whale. How does a bumblebee know how to go to a flower, get pollen, get nectar, come back, turn it into honey, one of the best food products the world has ever seen to this very day, and make a hive? How does it make a hive? Who taught it how to do that? There are no answers. You know what instincts mean? Instincts means they know how to do it and we don't know how. That's what instincts means. And Darwin says, hey, if we can't come up with a good explanation for instincts, my theory's not worth much. Number three, sterility and crossbreeding of species. Basically, he said we're all interrelated. We all come from the same stuff, so we should be able to crossbreed different species of animals. Can't do it. Number four, the incredible complexity of such organs as the eye. Now, in Darwin's day, they knew nothing about complexity compared to what we know today. I want to share with you a video clip, as Andrew goes and turn off the lights, about the complexity of the living cell. Darwin knew nothing about this. Had he would have shut down his own theory right away. Again, this comes from Ben Stein's movie Expelled, No Intelligence Allowed. Great movie. If you haven't seen it, I'd encourage you to see it.